A lot of people have been asking me what is next when it comes to Onyx. Now, it's not possible for me to know exactly when it comes to the price charts, but one thing I can discuss though is actually the fundamentals of Onyx, the improvements it's been making lately, and why I think this could ultimately maybe matter later on if the market were to recover in terms of the fundamental improvements. But I first want to clarify, nothing I say is financial advice, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything. So, a couple major things happened for Onyx as of late. We do know that they launched the mainnet of their Layer 1 blockchain this year. Furthermore, they launched something called Onyx Mesh, which happened quite recently. And if we take a look at it as well, 10% of gas fees when it comes to their Layer 1 blockchain is literally burned. So that automatically creates this deflationary pressure when it comes to Onyx. Keep in mind, Onyx does not have an infinite maximum supply. You want to know what does? Take a look at Dogecoin, Solana. Their maximum supply is literally infinity. Onyx does not have, on the flip side, a maximum supply that is infinity. But still, even despite that, there's already that deflationary measure, again, where 10% of gas fees when it comes to their Layer 1 blockchain are literally burned, right? So it's removed. So that's pretty impressive. Now, people like to say, but what steps are they making in order to further increase adoption when it comes to their Layer 1 blockchain? Well, case in point, they recently launched Onyx Mesh not too long ago. Now, if we think about it, the reason why Onyx Mesh could very well allow for more Onyx to basically get burned, the reason why I think so maybe hypothetically is because if we take a look at Onyx Mesh, what it basically does is that it allows enterprises to still utilize the Onyx Layer 1 while at the same time still having some information out there that is private. Because if we take a look at it, a lot of enterprises out there, they want to adopt blockchain technology, but then at the same time, they don't want everything out there. So what Onyx Mesh does is that it allows an enterprise, let's say, to still adopt blockchain technology, still have the information out there that they don't necessarily need to be private to, utilize blockchain technology and all this. So let's say certain aspects out there that they don't really care about the privacy of, they can utilize blockchain technology. But then on the flip side, the stuff that they do want private, they can still control their data from the institutional side of things. So that way, some things can be private, some things can be public. So this creates this kind of unique and sort of hybrid system. So if we take a look at that right there, it kind of removes this bottleneck, right? Where a lot of enterprises out there may feel limited and not want to adopt blockchain technology because of the lack of privacy. But then now, through Onyx Mesh, there are certain aspects out there that could still utilize blockchain technology, but then some other aspects that need to be private, it doesn't need to utilize the Onyx Layer 1. Maybe. So that's the cool thing about it. And if we take a look at that right there, because now enterprises have this option, maybe if, let's say, through Onyx Mesh, it allows for better adoption of the Onyx Layer 1, that could indirectly, if let's say there's more transactions going on, if there's more activity, could you imagine 10% of these gas fees, they keep getting burned, that slowly but surely is going to continue to reduce the supply when it comes to Onyx. So when people like to say, oh, does Onyx have a deflationary mechanism or kind of this burn mechanism? Well, in theory, through its Layer 1, it does, in my opinion. So that's pretty cool, at least personally for me. Now, also on top of that, the Onyx Layer 1, again, in terms of the mainnet, people like to say, well, the adoption is so bad. Well, how can they really evaluate that as of right now? It's not really possible because it literally just had the mainnet be launched this year. So it's not like the Onyx Layer 1 has been around for a decade or something like that. That's not the case. It just literally launched this year in terms of the mainnet. But at least they're doing all of this. And keep in mind, Onyx's most massive year, I think, in terms of development, I think has been 2026. I get it. It may seem kind of bizarre seeing the price charts being this quote-unquote low, but then Onyx still improving. But if anything, I think what does that showcase, right? I think it showcases that the resources were managed properly because we see a lot of other projects out there. They had this really amazing peak in 2024 or 2025, but then they just wasted it all. The reason why is because they keep thinking that the glory days are forever. They keep thinking that, oh, the market's going to keep being that way forever. So then when the market eventually went down, some of them close up shop, literally. I mean, we see some projects out there shut down. And the reason why? They probably didn't manage their resources properly. They kept thinking that 2024 and 2025 was going to be forever. But it wasn't, right? This market, what happens? Sometimes there's a downturn, some people just truly don't know when that could exactly happen in some cases. But one thing that I see when it comes to Onyx is that they seem to have managed it properly, because even with this market downturn, we take a look at, again, the mainnet of their layer 1 blockchain. It launched this year. We take a look at Onyx Mesh. It launched this year. So those are very impressive things, and they did all of that this year, right? So it showcases that they weren't necessarily unwise with their capital, because some other projects out there, they were a little bit unwise, but it doesn't seem like that in this case. But this is just from what I noticed. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Now, if we take a look at it as well, Onyx being around 6 times lower than its market cap peak last year, it may sound like a disadvantage, it may sound like a bad thing, but it depends on the perspective in which I take a look at it as. Because if anything, my point of view is that this project became way better than back in 2025. And yet it's around 6 times lower than its peak in 2025. So something became better, yet the price charts are lower. I mean, that's just how it kind of operates sometimes within this space, especially if there is a market downturn. But could you imagine? Onyx was able to reach around $1 billion in terms of market cap last year without the layer 1 in terms of the mainnet, without Onyx Mesh. It was able to do that. So if anything, Onyx is way better right now, in my opinion, when compared to its peak last year. So if, let's say, the market cap of Onyx last year, it peaked at around $1 billion, what could it do next time around if, let's say, there is a change in market sentiment, if, let's say, that good sentiment comes back in again when it comes to altcoins, what happens to Onyx now that it has way better fundamentals? Now, if it exceeded its peak last year, it wouldn't surprise me. But if anything, if it only just returned to its peak last year, we're around 6 times lower than that. The thing is this. I know people like to say, well, that's really bad though. Well, seriously? Let's take a look at Ethereum. It's not 6 times lower than its all-time high. Bitcoin. It's not 6 times lower than its all-time high either. I mean, Bitcoin's around 2 times lower. It's not around 6 times lower. But the thing is this, right? If Bitcoin, for whatever reason, went back to its all-time high, it would be so celebrated by a lot of people out there, personally, that I know. But then suddenly, if Onyx goes back to, let's say, around $1 billion in terms of market cap, which we're around 6 times lower than that, some people would say, oh, that's so boring. Just the hypothetical idea of it, right? How does that make sense? Bitcoin, let's say, it does a 2 times movement. People find it so legendary, but suddenly when it comes to Onyx, if, let's say, it's around 6 times lower than its peak last year, and if it could maybe even go back there, it's considered so boring. How does that make sense? It doesn't make sense, right? Because the way to take a look at it is this. If I like good food and I eat at a certain restaurant and I eat another restaurant and they're both good, at the end of the day, it's good either way. It's not like I find it cool in one place and not cool in the other. It doesn't make any sense. So I kind of view it no different here. When it comes to Onyx, keep in mind, we're talking about a project here that in terms of global trade and finance is still top 10 in terms of popularity within this space. I'm not joking. At least that's the way to take a look at it. Let's break this down real quick, right? I even mentioned this in one of my previous videos when it comes to Onyx, but I'm just going to mention it because every time I don't, people like to call me out on it. So yeah, I'm going to mention it. If we take a look at Ripple and Stellar, we do know they're number 1 and number 2. Like, come on, right? Ripple and Stellar, they're so popular when it comes to this space, at least in terms of global trade and finance. Now, what's number 3? Some people would arguably say Canton. Some people would arguably say, in some other cases, XDC. So let's just assume that's 3 or 4, right? So what's number 5? Now, number 5 is actually Onyx's closest competitor called Zebic. So where does that leave Onyx? Now, that arguably leaves Onyx at number 6. The reason why is because, okay, if we take a look at XPR and Swiftcoin, I mean, they have their fundamentals too, and I'm still a fan of their fundamentals, but they're not as popular as Onyx. So automatically, that relegates XPR and Swiftcoin to either 7 or 8, in which case makes Onyx indirectly the 6th ranked, right, when it comes to this space in terms of global trade and finance. But also, one thing else that we do know, though, is that the global trade and finance space historically has been very popular. But the thing is, for quite some time now, the attention has only been towards primarily Ripple and Stellar. What happens if, let's say, the market were to maybe hypothetically recover And that's a big maybe. But if it were to do that, and let's say for whatever reason, the new narrative becomes alternatives beyond Ripple and Stellar, could you imagine that? Guess who's waiting right there? Onyx is waiting right there. Now, by extension, XDC, Zebic, and some others are also waiting right there, but Onyx is one of them. And keep in mind, Onyx is not under so much competition. Just like I mentioned before, it's not like there's 30 or 40 different versions of Onyx. That's really not the case. Its closest competitor is Zebic. It's not like there's 20 of those roaming around when it comes to the space. Onyx simply doesn't have that much competition currently. It could change moving forward, but I'm saying just as of right now, it doesn't have that much competition. So Onyx, what it has going for it is that it's in a market that historically has a lot of popularity, which is global trade and finance within this space. It has Onyx Mesh, it has the Onyx Layer 1, and it doesn't even have that much competition to begin with. So what's the missing ingredient? It seems like all the key ingredients are there. The missing one, it's just that salt and pepper. In which case, basically in this case, I think it's just a hypothetical altcoin season. That's the missing thing. But what does that require of me? Now, I can't control it. I can't do anything to change it. One thing I can do, though, is wait. It's like, for instance, the market sentiment changing, it requires me waiting. I can't do anything else beyond that. But I don't mind waiting for a project that I like. That's the thing. So when it comes to Onyx, I don't mind waiting. But as of right now, what's next when it comes to Onyx? Well, in terms of the fundamentals, it's already kind of set. I mean, I don't really know what else it can do. What's next is just waiting for a hypothetical altcoin season. At least that's personally what I'm doing. Now, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but that's really kind of it, right? I mean, okay, the fundamentals are already there. The popularity is already somewhat there. Onyx has around 148,000 holders. What else can it really do? You know, it's already kind of done that. It already has sort of this burn mechanism anyways when it comes to its layer 1. I mean, what else is it supposed to do? I guess it could just wait, right? But I'm going to wait. But personally, I'm still dollar cost averaging once every approximately 30 days. Now, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but the reason why I do that is because if let's say a dollar cost average at a certain month, and let's say it's a little bit high up here, and then the other month it's a little bit down here, maybe the other month as well, it's somewhere in between. What that does is that it kind of evens itself out. So I treat it like a marathon. It's not a sprint for me. I'm more so focused about, you know, my time inside this market as opposed to trying to time the market, if that kind of makes sense. I'm not trying to time it. It's kind of similar to what Warren Buffett, I think, said somewhere along those lines not too long ago, where it's like time inside the market as opposed to timing the market, somewhere along those lines. But yeah, besides that point, when it comes to me, I'm still waiting for the projects that I'm a fan of, but I'm not telling anyone to do anything. But again, what's next? When it comes to me, I'm just going to wait because I feel like Onyx has already kind of improved greatly ever since last year. I'm already a fan of the fundamentals, so I'm going to wait. But again, that's just personally what I'm doing. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. But I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward when it comes to Onyx, so hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. I want to say thank you so much for watching. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.